You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with your hosts, Mike and Jon. So another civilization strategy game for you, Jon. I'm noticing a pattern.
Another real-time strategy. This one, however, I feel like is extremely underrated.
I got to be honest, I don't know that I know it. I think I've heard it in passing, but I definitely don't. It's not on my radar. So this one is new.
It unfortunately came out at a time where Age of Empires 2 was like the biggest like medieval kind of real-time strategy game. And it kind of got buried by that, but I think I prefer Rise of Nations over Age of Empires 2, even though I played both.
Nice. Yeah. I played, the only Age of Empires I really played was, I think, ironically, it was for my DS a long time. It was like 2008 or something, 2006, something like that. But yeah, I think, did this game come out in 2003? Is that correct?
03 or 04.
Yeah, that's right in the wheelhouse of kind of relaxing real-time strategy games where there's a lot of focus on city building, and that's kind of cool. I was watching a long play. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, this one is really focused on kind of building out an economy. It's less micro management than a Age of Empires game. It's more focused on your the overall like composition of your civilization, expanding. It has borders. It has like territory, unlike Age of Empires. So your territory can either grow or shrink based on technology, borders with other players, and then if you have a city, it will increase your borders. So it kind of has that. It's a real time like civilization game. So like you think of Civ as the turn-based version of this. It was a bit more ahead of its time in that respect.
What I was watching almost felt a little bit, and I will actually go into this for the actual soundtrack as well, but it felt like Heroes of Might and Magic in terms of calmness. Like it's a little relaxing.
It's a slower game. Yeah.
But yeah, I did like the way it looked, and it looks pretty fun.
Yeah, the combat is definitely a lot slower than a lot of RTS games, and it's interesting in that way where if you have an army on one side of your little nation, it can take time for it to get back to help defend if someone else attacks you. It's a game that really does benefit the people who kind of pre-plan, have an idea, have their head on the swivel. But also has that kind of relaxing. You're building your nation up, and it was a game that I played a decent amount in actual like LANs, where we'd lug a computer to a friend's house and play, and that was super fun. Just being in someone's basement with like 8 computers playing Rise of Nations, yelling at each other because they keep invading.
That sounds like a good time. I don't think I've ever played a real-time strategy game in the same house. I did. To go back to Heroes, I did that, but that was a little different.
Yeah.
Real time in the same house, that would be a good time.
Yeah, that was super fun. It was either Rise of Nations or Medal of Honor.
Nice.
Kind of the 2 games that we played.
Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Man,
lots of
Medal. The last real Medal of Honor I played was Frontline for PlayStation 2. That was a good time.
Oh,
that
really?
was a good one.
Yeah, I don't really mess with with that anymore. Brothers in Arms was probably my favorite World War II shooter of the time.
Nice.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
We're talking about Rise of Nations, Jon.
Rise of Nations. A real-time strategy, like we said, that's you are taking a nation, although Age of Empires is kind of based in early, middle, and Renaissance, and that's kind of where it ends. Rise of Nation goes from ancient era all the way to the information age.
Oh, wow.
There's nukes and bombers and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's a real-time strategy out in 2004. This specific soundtrack was composed by Duane Decker, who also composed, which I didn't know, MechWarrior 3, MechWarrior 4, Mech Commander, and Mech Commander 2.
Wow.
Which is interesting. It's kind of a interesting mix between a real time strategy game and just a lot of, although Mech Commander was kind of a real time tactical game. It wasn't really a strategy game. Yeah, just having that mix of genres. MechWarrior 4 was like one of my favorite games of all time.
Nice. We might have to do that soundtrack someday.
Yeah,
we might come back to the MechWarrior universe
franchise.
Yeah.
And MechWarrior 3 was kind of a weird one because it was like in between, and I don't think it was super well received. But MechWarrior 4 was like one of the standout games.
Awesome, man. Well, let's dive in. Let's talk the music. So Duane Decker, and it's an interesting soundtrack. It caught me off guard. I will say that.
Yeah,
it was not what I expected, and I'm not sure what I expected. But go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, most of the tracks really get into the action quickly. There's not a lot of short track or long tracks in this album, and all of them have kind of a really strong beginning to get you into the action. And they all have their own kind of flavor. That's very it's very diverse.
It's eclectic, I would say.
Yeah. It's similar to like a Civilization soundtrack where you have a whole bunch of different styles of music, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it's sounding a bit computer generated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had some notes about the diversity of the soundtrack. It caught me. I think that's one of the things that caught me off guard. It was one when I heard and thought real-time strategy, and this is probably my fault, but I just felt maybe it would be a little bit more powerful, like in your face powerful.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad. So I was surprised by how gentle it is, if that makes sense. But then once I was watching the long play, I was like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of lull in the game where you're kind of doing city management and all that kind of thing. So it makes sense that some of the tracks like Wing and a Prayer, which is kind of towards the end of the album, but for all of the kind of bluster that some of the tracks have, this one is Wing and a Prayer is more of a slow and melancholic sound.
Yeah.
I get the sense that it's like middle of the story. You're at the lowest point of your empire's history. But it wells up towards the middle, and you kind of give you that hope and inspiration that you're going to come out of the slump.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the better songs on the album for me. That really clean acoustic guitar, just plucking away, a little bit of reverb on it, and then that violin behind it. Just it's really, really beautiful. I do like this track a lot. It gives a certain sadness, but then like that hopefulness towards the middle. I don't know. Yeah. There's a shift, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I like the idea that it's this turning point in your losing game. You're gonna bring it back around. It has a unique with all of the songs that are fairly unique. This is probably the most standout kind of on its own track of the bunch.
Yeah, I would say there is a definite power behind it. At least just in the attack on that acoustic guitar and the crispness of it. It just has a completely different feel than a lot of the other stuff here.
Yeah.
Another one that kind of stands out, Battle at Witch Creek. For me, I was like, this is the point where I looked up the game. I was listening to the soundtrack and I'm like, all right, what's going on here? So it's a little baffling, but there's some fierce piano going on here. And that's all it is. You know, it's a very daring and dramatic piece with its strings and its mid-range keys. There's a real fire behind the song, even if it's not incredibly fast-paced or frantic. I can feel the soul of battle here. I don't know how or where this takes place, but this is like a different level of the battle. It's different than something perhaps I've heard before when someone's trying to depict a battle or an encounter. So I would say it's really unique given the title. And for an RTS game, it feels a little out of place, but I still think it's really fun and beautiful.
Yeah, it gives that feeling of maybe desperation and struggle in the middle of a conflict that you don't really get. A lot of times you get a lot of the bombastic feelings, the feelings of victory or triumph. This is more of the individual struggle or individual despair.
Yeah.
At his compatriots being, shot down or whatever. Yeah, it really that and Wings of a Prayer are really really different. This one is very soulful, and the Wing of a Prayer is very very kind of strong and forceful.
Absolutely. What was really weird to me is that eclectic nature. I think what Decker was going for was capturing the ideas of all these different locations. I think that's the mood he was trying to set. So I think what makes these songs, the two that we've mentioned already, stand out so much is not only that they're, for me, part of a real-time strategy game, but that they're so different than pretty much anything else on the album.
And they're very evocative too.
Yeah.
You get that sense of where he's trying to bring you, and it definitely works.
Yeah, where a majority of the other songs are locations, like Brazil or what's another one? Morocco, Osaka. They all are trying to capture a people rather than just making a cohesive piece.
Right. And one of those that I did enjoy is Santiago. You get that Spanish guitar, really sets the mood for a more lighthearted track. I do wish the guitar was a bit more, had a bit more feeling behind it.
Yeah,
it's a bit computer produced feeling.
Very light.
Yeah, there's no swing to it or anything. It's just very flat. But the song itself, even so, you kind of get into the rhythm of this one. It kind of gives you the permission to lay back and build out your empire as you kind of chill to this beat.
It's a nice chill beat with those bongos playing. Is it bongos?
Yeah, I guess it would be bongos.
Yeah.
I think it's bongos. Yeah,
a nice relaxing beat, and that flute is this is the flute's big moment here. They're having
it's Ron Burgundy coming out,
getting ready for that flute solo, and there's actually a couple on this album, but this was a nice jaunty little tune that kind of strikes you from out of nowhere. And I like it. Another one that caught me was Mist at Dawn, which I thought was a little bit more, it was a little darker. There's a low chorus line that really opens the song, and it's a little haunting and serene. It strikes me as something that I would gravitate towards on this album, just because this is my kind of ambient music, I guess you would say. It's it's a little bit more but
ephemeral.
Yeah. It's melancholic and beautiful. It's, there are some really light strings that back the chorus line as they change pitch and sing their melody. And I want to say that this song strikes me as maybe the aftermath of a battle. Even the title, Mist at Dawn, brings forth those images of battlefields strewn with corpses and devastation. And it feels like a demonstration of sorrow about what has just occurred, that kind of thing. It's very
the horrors of war.
Yeah, and I thought this was a standout track because it's mostly just synthesizer, orchestra, or strings, and then chorus.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty beautiful.
Yeah, for this, I mean, the rest of the album, for the most part, are, like you said, location based, kind of upbeat for the most part tracks. That would they might fit into any kind of game that is about that civilization, the empire building, you're running a country. But this one definitely has that feeling of that sorrow, like you said, the horror of war. You could just hear the crows in your head.
Absolutely.
As they fly around and fly over the corpses and pick at them.
Yeah. It's got a completely different feel. And I would say it probably goes a little bit with the first song you mentioned, Wing and a Prayer, just a little bit more subdued, a little more contemplative. But yeah, definitely a standout track for me.
A fun one is that I find, and it's a pretty short one, but Arc de Triomphe.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a fun track. Like a lot of the other tracks on the album, it just starts out strong with the falling scales of strings and these triumphant horns. It feels like you're part of this like victory parade with the flower petals falling down from the sky. Kind of the opposite feeling of Mist at Dawn, of this triumph and isn't war great?
Isn't war fantastic?
Isn't fantastic?
Have you ever seen Hot Shots Part 2?
Yeah,
that guy the army guy. I can't remember his fucking name. I love him. He's a great actor, but he stands up in the middle of the battle. He just looks at the camera. War. It's fantastic. And that's this song for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, it's with those cascading strings. This is the absolute opposite of Mist at Dawn, and it's very beautiful. This is either you've just come home from battle or you're leaving for battle. And I know it's triumph, but it could be used either way. There's a pride when you're leaving for battle, and there's we're going to win this thing, and we've got great morale right now, and no one's been killed yet. But yeah, I think it's a great song. It's only a minute long, but it really stands out.
And I don't remember if this is just part of the kind of tracks that play, or if this is actually the end of like the end credits or whatever, the like the score screen if you win.
Yeah.
But it definitely has that vibe of you won the game. Here's a source.
Done it.
You've done it.
Congratulations. Here is a scroll of fertile fields.
is a scroll of congratulations.
Scroll of congratulations.
Signed by the president.
Yay. You've done it. No. I did want to mention Attack. It is probably the most ominous so far. Not just that we've talked about, but I think it's the fourth track, and of those four, this is definitely the most ominous. You know, you got those low tubas at the intro, and the timpani really takes over and drives the song with just a thunderous beat. It's not very bombastic or loud, but the intensity of battle is palpable. And I think that's important for a game like this, where battle is a huge part of it. And when the timpani resolves into a marching snare drum, that really gets the song going. And some soft strings build out the song to create a very stressful environment while the tubas are growling their dark tones. So altogether, it's a really satisfying piece. Every song on this album is relatively short, but this one stood out in grabbing me and grabbing the moment, I think. It captured that. I felt like in this moment, I knew what this game was about. It just worked for me.
Yeah, the beginning of it really gives you that sense of the initial march to the battlefield. The timpani rising to be the stand-in for the soldiers' boots as they trump down the lane. And then the song just builds and builds until there's this crescendo. The snare drums play as they face off. And it just culminates in battle. It's not a bombastic track, like you said. It's subdued for what it is. And there are definitely moments of calm in it. There's like kind of that section where everything kind of fades away a little bit while they think about things, and you're staring at your opponent from across the field. But then it comes right back in when you guys go for a charge.
Run them up the left flank.
That's right. It's a great little battle track.
Yeah, it captures the ups and downs of battle. That, like you said, that last third, all the instruments kind of drop out, and it gets a little bit more inquisitive. You're trying to figure things out, and I think it really works. But then towards the end, it starts rising again. You're making your move, and how's it going to turn out? So, yeah, it works very well.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other songs?
Yeah, so I think the all of the tracks that have that the names of towns or cities or nations, like Brazil and Indochina and Morocco, they're great little love letters to a certain extent to those cultures. I know to some extent those tracks used instruments that are from those cultures. Probably the synthesized version of them, but still, and they're all pretty upbeat, up and fun to listen to, and they have their own flavor. So, I kind of like that setting where you have these kind of bog standard nation tracks, then layered beneath you have these more flavorful, more soulful songs that kind of give you a better sense of the world in the moment that you're in.
Yeah, he definitely put some effort into finding unique instruments to accompany each different song. And I would say Morocco, it's a little bit more exotic. Yeah. They have bongos again, and then some strained strings for that signature sounding accent to the songs. And Osaka begins with that really identifying strum on that Japanese instrument. You know, he throws in those instruments to give it a little bit of life for each location, and I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I think it helps take you somewhere else, and you know you're somewhere else in the game, even if you haven't moved territory, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you're playing the nation, like this happens on a lot of RTSs. The nation that you pick, it'll have its own soundtrack and kind of gets you in the mood of the nation that you're playing.
Yeah. Very, very thoughtful.
Yeah. Oh, final thoughts on this album?
The album takes some turns, and as we've stated, the composer, I think, wanted to capture the locales of the game as best he could, and I do think it's well done. Overall, this album doesn't hit me as hard as I was saying in the beginning, as I was maybe expecting to be. That could just be my brain and my bias toward the type of game, but I think it matches what you're doing on screen. Yeah. Because when I was watching the long play, it made a lot more sense.
Right.
And it worked a little bit better than it did when I was just listening to it by itself. I do liken, as I stated at the beginning, with the gameplay a little bit was a little similar to Heroes of Might and Magic. Mm-hmm. Not overly similar, but to me, the album is more similar to Heroes of Might and Magic.
Yeah, I can see that.
When we covered that, there's a lot of these songs, well, very well written and interesting to listen to. It feels like Decker's idea of what these places sound like.
Yeah.
And in doing that, that's not bad, but I think as a piece, a whole album, it took away from me.
Yeah.
Just because it's so different. Like every song, there's not a lot of through line that I can draw.
There's no cohesion there, yeah.
So it did hit me a little differently. And that's, I don't know if it's just preference, and I'm not taking away from his abilities or anything like that. I think he wrote what was suitable for the game, and I do believe that. But at times for me, it feels disjointed because there's one song that's very beautiful and elegant, and then another song is all these new instruments, and it doesn't feel like the same soundtrack sometimes. Right. So it didn't resonate with me quite as well as I thought it might. But the songs we mentioned, you go from Attack to, say, Battle at Witch Creek to Santiago. All are great songs,
right? But
so different in style that you feel like you're just listening to completely different things.
Right.
So again, that's more my thing. But I think the long play definitely helped me understand it better, and I do think he did a great job composing this soundtrack.
Yeah, I would agree that I think this soundtrack definitely is one that requires the game to kind of make sense. Listening to it, I certainly got the nostalgia kick from listening to it again, because playing this as in early 2000s, in the younger days where you would go to friends' houses and play, definitely had that nostalgia kick. And I actually booted it up again because you can buy it on Steam, the extended edition, even though it hasn't gotten the same love that Age of Empires has with the definitive editions and all that. But someday it'll get polished.
It'll just never get above Age of Empires. Still knocking it down all these years later. Jeez,
that's true. But yeah, in total, the album is pretty disjointed, and some of the tracks are really neat and have a flair to them, and have a lot of meaning in them. And then some of them seem like he was checking a box off of a list. Like I have to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just check it off. And it has that kind of whitewashed feeling to some of the cultural songs that you get.
Yeah, like you were saying, for which song with the guitar?
Santiago.
That was Santiago. Yeah, it did feel a little lackluster. Just the choice of whatever he used. I'm pretty sure it was a keyboard for that guitar. When you pair that up with Wing and a Prayer, it's like, what?
Yeah, totally different.
What's the difference, man? Yeah. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, overall, I would probably personally give this a 6 out of 10. Solid effort, well-written pieces, but just lacking in that cohesiveness I didn't know I was looking for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I would have to give it a 7. 7 cities raised by me out of 10.
Oh, shoot. I didn't give an item.
Yeah, well.
I'll think about it. You keep going, sir.
And like you said, it definitely requires the game to make sense. And even then, a lot of the songs do kind of fall flat. So there's a lot of, there's some gems in here, but for the most part, it's you wouldn't really listen to this by itself. So, yeah.
So, can you buy this anywhere? I don't know that I found.
I don't think so. Unlike Age of Empires.
I see it right here. Duane Decker, people also search for Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Age of Empires 4. Damn it! I know you can stream it on SoundCloud, and then...
There's apparently a DVD on Amazon, Rise of Nations original soundtrack, which has 2.2 out of 5-star rating.
Oh, no.
It's $10, so, you know.
I think we were pretty accurate. 2.2 out of 5. Shit.
Oh, and apparently this doesn't even contain the opening piece of the game. So, yeah, I'm not sure. And this looks like it's kind of old.
Yeah, you can stream it, obviously, on YouTube, things like that. But as for purchasing, I don't think it's quite there yet.
Yeah. And I don't think Duane Decker has really done much beyond MechWarrior 4 and Mech Commander 2.
We wish him the best and show him some love. Try to search him out and see if he's doing anything. Again, still a good soundtrack, just not as cohesive.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
John, would you like to say goodbye to the lovely listeners?
I'll see you in your territory. I'll be knocking down your city, and we'll be assimilating.
Assimilating. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple.
We're not doing that.
We certainly did. Never mind.
Try again.
Scratch that.
Check it out. Look it up.
John?
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, you like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say, we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.